like first, and because that's what it was like better.
Yeah. And all I can think about is like my bangs.
Having fun, talking.
So are these gonna appear, or are you not like putting them on the table?
You know, as teenagers, we kind of forget, or that like our voices matter, because we think like, oh, nobody wants to hear what we have to say.
They feel like it doesn't matter what they think, so they're just like a teenager, but that's not true. Even if you can't vote, there are so many like smaller things you can do, like just talking to people.
That's where you can really like find your sense of individuality. You can find your sense of like how to get involved.
Mabel Lee was a Chinese immigrant who moved to the United States at the age of 4 in the year 1900. At this time in our country's history, it was really just terrible for Chinese American immigrants. There was the Chinese Exclusion Act that barred Chinese people from being able to enter the country unless you were in specific social classes that included missionaries.
She was the daughter of a missionary, but she could not be a citizen because she was Chinese.
She still realized that she wanted to have a huge role in the women's suffrage movement.
When she was 16, she participated in the New York City suffragist parade.
Newspapers reported her in the New York Times riding a horse, a big white horse, with a contingent of other women.
She was able to really mobilize the Chinese American community, who at this time, even if women got the right to vote, they were still going to be kept from voting.
As a teenager, it really just shows that she had that passion, and she knew what she had to do, and she knew it was right, and she fought for it.
Liberty Party, which starts out in very banned slavery party.
In 1848, Benjamin Brown Foster was just your typical 17-year-old living in Maine.
Like a lot of teenagers today, he didn't really feel like he had that kind of like sense of purpose in life.
He was kind of like an insecure kid. He didn't really have like a sense of himself yet until he met this fugitive slave, and he talked to him and he got to discuss with him about what he'd been through.
After this conversation, he was completely absorbed in politics, and particularly in the anti-slavery movement.
There isn't that much of an organized anti-slavery movement in the 1840s. They're less formal back then. There's been this attitude in the North that just don't talk about it. And Ben thinks, no, let's bring this out on the table and let's really talk about it in politics.
He started writing anonymous articles in the newspaper. He tried to sway people to vote for the Free Soil Party.
It was called the Free Soil Party because as the nation was continuing to expand westward, there was a movement to make this free soil that people wouldn't be allowed to own slaves on.
He was definitely brave because the Free Soil Party wasn't really popular. He had this spark and he was able to just go out there and like put himself out there and just get his voice out there.
Even though his party didn't win, and in fact, I think they only got like 10% of the vote, which is like nothing, he still felt like he had gotten that sense of purpose.
He had done something. He had made a name for himself.
With Mabel Lee, I think the biggest takeaway that I had from her story was just how selfless she was. She must have realized, like, if she was going to get any benefits from this, it was going to come much further down the road.
To look at like the bigger picture of what matters to the entire country, not just herself. I feel like that way too. I feel like I'm part of something like so much bigger.
Same thing with Benjamin, with his confidence that he found through politics.
When he was able to like talk to that fugitive slave and just get like insight into like what other people are going through.
As he got into politics, he found out like his voice and his identity. You have to find your passion for wanting to do something.
I'm non-binary and bisexual. When people don't know someone who's part of that community, it's easy to just get caught up in like all of the like homophobic propaganda and stuff. But when you actually like have a human that you're talking with, that it's like, then you can kind of understand better like, oh, this is just another person like me, and just like feel that humanity within it.
Do you guys know what colorism is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a lot of people don't like believe that colorism is like a thing. They don't think like, oh, there's like a lighter skin like privilege, but like there is, and I don't think people aren't really open to the conversation.
it's an issue, like we need to talk about it.
Like my parents, like they immigrated from Pakistan like 20 years ago. So for me, it was just like realizing, I think, like as a child that like I was part of politics, you know? Because like people would look at me and like, oh, like that's like an immigrant, like that person's like not white. And then I just realized like, oh, I have to care about this because it affects me. I really think we need to shift the mindset from being an ally to being an accomplice. Like rather than just say like, oh, I stand with you, I support what you're doing, really saying like, hey, I don't only like stand by you in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm sorry you have to go through this, but good luck to you. Like, I'm in this with you.
Like, I want to help you.
So like fighting for each other's rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.